Firecrackers. Don't worry, you've not missed much. We are just getting started. And we want to talk about prevalence of insecurity in Nigeria. Mostly, we've always been hearing of insecurity in the northern parts of Nigeria. But right now, in this week, things took a different turn. We had 3 monarchs in Ekiti State that were attacked. One of them, fortunately, was able to flee the scene, but sadly 2 of them died. Also, on Thursday night, one monarch in Kwara State too was murdered with his wife abducted. In the Yoruba land, the monarchs are highly revered. In fact, they go so far as calling them second position to the gods of the land. But if you're having them being adopted, it seems something is definitely wrong. So what do we make of this situation that we have at times right now, insecurity here and there, especially now that it seems to be closing in to southwestern states of Nigeria?
Well, it's to, first and foremost, for us to understand that no one is safe. Because like you said, the monarchs in our traditional palace are second to the gods. So if they can be killed like that, they can be adopted and killed and assassinated on the way coming from meeting, but that will not be the first time this is happening. It's just that I hope we don't suffer from collective amnesia, that we forget it easily. Otherwise, if we know that this is not just happening, because maybe 2 of them happened the same day and from Ekiti State, and so it has been happening, and it's coming down gradually. And so it calls for concern that every hand must be on deck to make sure that we curtail this. It does not put anything good for us as a country, as a people. If the monarchs are not safe, then that means in those communities, nobody is safe. If they can be killed like that, that means nobody is safe in those rural local communities. And it's very, very dangerous for our well-being.
Okay, because these are high-profile people in the society, do you think that the way it happened might be pointing towards assassination rather than a security threat that everyone in the region should be worried about? Because they are kings, one would expect that they should be going around with probably their own security team and something like that. But if they are going alone, would you say that perhaps that type of attack seems targeted? It was not probably to kidnap. Would you say it might be an assassination?
Well, there have been indications to that, but we have to leave that to investigation by the police to get to the root of the matter. Why were they not adopted? Why were they assassinated? And one of the reports that I read, that nothing was taken from them, the money was not taken. So we keep wondering, but we can only allow the law enforcement agent, the police particularly, to get to the root of that matter by investigation. But because of what we have been seeing, because of the modus operandi of these people, it might be because, like the one that happened in Kwara State, that they went to the palace, they ordered the KBC to stand up to obey their instruction, and that one said, no, I'm being a retired general and a king, that you can't come to my palace and be ordering me around, and they shot him and killed him just because he didn't obey them. So we don't know what happened with the other 2 monarchs that were killed. We don't know the circumstances, who was there with them, whether they were not, whether they wanted to kidnap them and they resisted, they kidnapped and all of that, and in the process they were shot and they were killed. But so we allowed the police investigation to get to the root of that matter. But what we are saying is that in that same Ekiti, we know what has been happening to this. And where I come from, we share a boundary. I'm from Ondo State, and my own part of the state share a boundary with Ekiti State. And we'll be having that in our own environment. It's not all of these that get reported. Maybe because this one was reported because there were 2 of them, they were coming from a meeting, they were monarchs. But in our own rural community that has a border with Ekiti State, in Ondo State that I come from, we have these issues before. Because some of our community people who were in the farm, they raised query-wide cows were grazing on their farm and they were killed. And that was part of what gave rise to our late governor setting up this Amotekun. He was so concerned because it got to a point that the farmers are not willing to go to the farm again. Because the last time I went to, I made an attempt to visit those farmlands with some of our colleagues at home to know that there are farmland that we used to know has become a graceland. Yes. And so you are not safe because these herdsmen are going about, and they are going about armed. And you know our people are only armed with day gun and cutlass, but they have automatic weapons and they are using it to follow these cows. And they are going in hundreds. And so even the way they go and the grasses, all the places where they farm cassava have become graceland. Even to the place that when we were young, we used to think it's a forest. They have all become like a savanna. So this problem is there. So now that we've had it this way, I think it's going to provoke reaction from government to be able to find its last solution to this. Because it's going to affect the crop production. People are afraid to go to the farm because they don't know. A lot of people have been harmed. Some are macheted, some are killed, some are adopted, some are, so it's happening. It's prevalent in those rural communities. It's just that it doesn't get reported like we have had in this case.
Definitely. And then if we are also to look at the issue of school children too, that they were kidnapped in Ekiti State. Although the governor was sending thank you messages to President Tinubu as of today that the kids have returned swiftly, and he was crediting their rescue to the president. Although we also have these issues, because if we have to take a look at the one that happens in the northern Nigeria, that was this family that was kidnapped in Abuja. They murdered the sister, and then they were demanding so much money for ransom. What the police was saying is that they were able to rescue them, unearth the remaining children that were there. But we also got information that they paid for ransom, which also brings us back to the issue of ransom payment, because day in, day out we hear news of people being kidnapped, police rescuing people from kidnappers. Then some people, they go to forest and they see some people that they've already been killed. Maybe some of them died due to poor conditions that these kidnappers
starvation, dehydration and whatever.
So what would you recommend? Because there was some time passed in the National Assembly that they passed the bill of illegality of paying ransom. They termed it illegal. But when we also have to put in mind that we are humans, and with that comes some level of sentiment, especially to the people who hold dear, to the people we love. One could imagine the type of torment the parents of these kids who were kidnapped, what they were going through, not knowing of the safety of their children. And one could also imagine that they could contribute any amount of money.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you. We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
Going on, he started hearing gunshot. Before he said Jack, they were already shooting at his vehicle, and they actually shot at the vehicle, so he was forced to stop. Then they asked, come down, and the wife came down, the children, and they marched them into the bush. And he said they had the courage to say, is it not money you want? Why taking my wife and my children? Leave them. Take only me so that they can look for money for you. And he said they asked the wife and the children to go, 3 kids. And so after a while, the wife called us, those are friends, and he was crying on the phone early in the morning. Please don't let them kill my husband. They were asking for 50 million. They came me down to 5. I actually contributed 50,000. I didn't even know when I went to transfer the money, because when the woman would call me and be crying, it was going to 1 week, 2 weeks. who were praying, raised prayer altar, but they needed the money. So in that situation, it is between you and, because you can't be hearing the voice of your husband. And when the guy came out, he was this tall and huge guy, and he was saying, well, these boys that kidnapped him, they were just young boys, that if not for the gun, he can take 4 of them. And because they discovered that, they tied his hand. When he came out after about 2 weeks in their captivity, he couldn't use his hand. He couldn't lift it for weeks. He couldn't drive. So he said at the point he wanted to die because the pain was so much. So these things are real. Another one, there was this school that was attacked in Ikorodu when they started, because this thing that happened in Lagos before. There was one mission school that was attacked. My friend's daughter was one of the people that were kidnapped. I went there with him. I was there. The commissioner of police came and all of that. And he was the one that took the ransom. He told me. He took the ransom to them. Because you can't be hearing the voice of your daughter crying, Daddy, please, whatever they want, just give it to them. Just give it to them. And the daughter is saying, for 1 week, we'll kidnap us. And they are saying, if you inform the police, we'll kill this. Which one are you going to be? Is it your daughter that is pleading with you, and you cannot sleep, your wife cannot sleep, or the police that are saying, don't pay ransom? And what do they stand to lose? So, that's become individual. So, you cannot, so it's good for them. That's what they keep saying, that don't encourage the kidnappers. We had one governor from the north said, if my son or daughter is kidnapped, I will only pray if they, because I will not pay ransom. Well, it depends on the individual. It depends on the number of children that you have. That governor then will have about 3 wives, have many children. So for someone who have like one wife and 3, you won't want to sacrifice any of them. So what are we saying? In the case of Abuja, it was one of the ex-ministers that was even leading the contribution or trying to raise money on social media. So that, and I think they said they paid 50 million. And one of them, because the delay in paying, the eldest of them was killed. And later that we heard that lady made a first class in ABU. He already graduated, but yet to get the result. And when the result came out, he came out with first class, but she's been killed. So these things, when it comes to individual will be the one that will know how to get out of it. Not that they will not wait for the police with the record that we know that they have. But the solution is actually through vigilance. Look at what Amotekun is doing. Because in our village now, being a border town between Ondo State and Kogi State, the Amotekun there is very strong. Young people who have no job, who are back in the village, they are the one. And we have a retired general who mobilize them, try and train them, and ask every member in the diaspora to contribute money. So they bought them motorcycle, they could go, they know the forest, they know all the Fulani settlements around the place, and they go there regularly, and they, so, and those one know that this place is no longer safe. That was what brought down the rate, because at the point everybody's afraid in the village. Even those of us who are parents in the village or in Lagos, we are afraid that one day they will not go and attack our old parents. So it is that bad. So, but the solution has always been that we have to empower the local police. There's no way you will bring somebody from Yobe to come and be a police officer in Lagos or in Ondo State. But when you have local police, community policing, and they know all the terrain, they know who is who, any strange people they see in the village or who are just come, they know this person is not part of this community. So it will be able to find a solution to this security problem.
All right, now let's look at this sort of comical yet very sad one. Just last week, police apprehended some people who kidnapped themselves, and then they were calling family members that they've been kidnapped, they should contribute money for them.
So that ransom should be paid.
That is quite sad, because this thing is something that anyone will feel, not sane person should. But if we have family members trying to manipulate the ones they think is the richest amidst them, how do we go on? How do we move forward from that? How do we know the ones whose cry for help is genuine and one who is just trying to extort one for money?
To be honest, when that friend of mine was kidnapped, that was the first thing. When the wife called me, I was like, I hope this is not a game, okay? But, okay, we have to cross-check, is it true, it's not true, is it true, and all of that before we finally discover. Because we have a lot of that going on. But for every rule, there's an exception. So, but and the hardship in the economy, the challenges with everyday living of people can actually push some people to do all of that. And I'm not trying to excuse, it's a crime for you to do that. But I think the police have enough resources at their disposal to know which is genuine, because at the end of the day, you still have to report to the police, and they will check, and they have a way of knowing, okay, the engagement they have to do with their training to know whether this is genuine, whether this person is just trying to raise money or prefer people of their hard-earned resources in the guise of being kidnapped. I think the police will have to do that.
Okay, all right, and then let us talk about something that is a little bit more practical. Let's say, for instance, one is about to get kidnapped, like the scenario you just narrated of being the one's car being shot, or let's say one was journeying in the bus that one suddenly got attacked and then they were gunshots all over. What is the practical thing to do in that scenario so that one would be able to save oneself and one would not be kidnapped?
Honestly speaking, I don't think there's anything that anybody can do. It's just you to be full of prayer right now, because our roads are not good. The last time, late last year, I think I went with my wife. We have to go to Edo State, and we have to drive from Lagos to Edo State to attend a function. At some of the bad spots of the road, you will slow down. Those points, what stop there? How many policemen, how many military men do we have to police those bad spots of the road? So for anybody that want to do kidnapping, they only need to wait at those spots, those bad spots on the road, where every car will have to slow down. And beside it, it's just a push. And you keep seeing these cows, these herders, you see them along the road with them. So I have that fear that each time we slow down at the point that is and the road is low traffic, and you don't see vehicle coming, you know that you are just, if you escape that. So the first thing the government can do we have a smooth road to drive on? Because for those who are doing kidnapping, they know the terrain. If you are just traveling on that road and you are not a frequent traveler on that road, and you come to a dead spot, very bad spot on the road, and we have to slow down, and somebody will just appear from the bush, even if they don't have gun, if it's cutlass that they have, and they threaten you, and whatever they want to do, you have to obey them. So there's a lot that is working against us as citizens of the nation, because the roads are bad. So unless you are not going to do interstate travel, unless you can only fly to destination that you are going, that's where you can. Even on Lagos Ibadan Expressway, they are doing kidnapping. The account of, I think the PDP chairman of Lagos State, coming from a meeting in Oyo State, was kidnapped between Lagos and Ibadan. Okay? So the first thing to do, make sure you don't travel in marked vehicles. Evangelism, this church or this party, and you hire a bus and you are going in convoy, because that attracts them. Okay, so because they believe that, okay, this is a group, by the time we kidnap some people, the group will come together. Oh, this is a church. By the time I'm a member of this church, okay, if you are a member of the same family, husband, wife, don't travel in the same vehicle, don't wear ashrebi. Assume you are coming from party from Ibadan, you are coming to Lagos, and you are all in the same vehicle. They know that if you kidnap 3 of these family members, other family member will be able to raise the money. So there's so many things, and the police intelligence department are giving those. This is how to do. You are driving on the road, you are not seeing vehicle coming from the other side. You should know that. Oh, you should wait. You should slow down until you see vehicle coming from, or you are not seeing vehicle go in front of you, and you are not seeing another one coming behind you, or you are not seeing, and you are driving for, and you see that you are not seeing any vehicle ahead of you. So there's a lot of advice, safety tips that are given on how to avoid this time, because every environment where you have this kind of challenges in the economy, people take to crime. That we must admit. Okay, it's not an excuse, but there are some people who takes to crime. You can draw a parallel. So what do? You have to personalize your safety. You don't have to depend on collective safety, because we do not have the numbers in the police, in the military, that can secure the length and breadth of our roads or our forests.
Yeah, and that's quite sad. But if we are to look at this issue of kidnapping, is not something new. It started with banditries. going to people in farmland. In fact, there are some places in northern Nigeria that are their farmlands. They will tell them that half of their yields have to go to them. And this became so burdensome on the people that we are having the rippling effects on our economy. We are almost at the risk of food insecurity in Nigeria right now, and we could probably be able to trace the origin to these activities of banditry and kidnapping. Although we know that globally there is issues, we have inflation globally, but if we are to trace the one in Nigeria, if we could trace it to these quotas, but do you think that the federal government is doing enough when it comes to making sure that these perpetrators are brought to book and doing something lasting that will ensure that this is not something that will be happening time to time?
I think the government alone cannot do it. So if we depend on the federal government alone or the state government alone, I think they will not be able to do it. If they want to do, because this has been going on. You know, when it started in the northwest, in the northeast, we probably think, okay, it's in the north. Now it's trickling down. So, and this has been going on, not before 2015, okay? And we keep excusing it, we keep thinking time, we are bait over time, but now it's increasing, okay? So, let us be very factual that we do not have enough law enforcement agencies and resources at the disposal of the military, even our military is spread thin, okay? So, definitely we must come to personalize our security. Unfortunately, it's affecting our food production and agriculture because a lot of people in the north can't go to farm. They are adopted in their farms, they are killed, and they are taxed. In fact, the food storage are being emptied by these bandits and all of that. So we are already feeling the effect, okay, down here, because since we depend on them for our food importation, all the things that we eat, practically the tomatoes, the whatever comes from them, the beans and all of that. So, and we see the price has changed, going up. So what do we do? What if the government is able to curtail it? The government will have moved it, and the government has done what they're supposed to do, and it's not enough. So, but maybe what people are talking about, and those of us in the law enforcement environment is talking about, why not personalize, or why not try community policing? Because practically every state now has to set up their own vigilante. They can't depend on the police. How many police you have a state? Can they go around all the communities? If they go around the community, do they have the resources to contain these bad elements are all over the place? And some of them, they are more even empowered, weapon-wise. The kind of weapon they carry is not even available to our law enforcement agents. So what do? What we do is that community must take ownership of their security, of their community, of their farms, so that the farmers can go to farm, and so that we don't collectively suffer from food insecurity as we already experienced. So that's what I think we can do.
All right, definitely. That is definitely something to think about.
Yes.
Because when people most times think about banditry, kidnappers, automatically, because I fear that we are nearing this generalization and stereotype that the X-Men are the ones doing the kidnapping. But if we are to look at number of people that policemen have caught kidnapping, you even see some people from southeastern Nigeria coming to southwest, going to the northern part of Nigeria to take part in this kidnapping. Also, when we also want to talk about security, because in Nigeria, although a lot of people do not trust the police, but this is where it even gets funny, because there was news making around that one police officer kidnapped a businessman and got millions of naira from him. And if this is what we have going on, how do we even begin to trust that the police, and because if we are counting on the federal government to do something, of course, we have to also think about the police. How do we even go about? Because it's quite understandable if people even fear going to report these cases to the police, because you don't know if they are in connivance with the police, and then they would get the tip and information that one has gone there to report this crime. So how do we move forward from that?
Yes, the number one reason why government exists all over the world is for the safety and security of life and property. So every government that cannot secure the life and property of its own citizens has failed. So the government have to keep doing that, have to keep saying, okay, what can we do? And they can convene a stakeholders meeting, but everybody has come to understand that in a federation like Nigeria, there's anywhere in a federation like Nigeria where you have a central policy. It has never worked. And even where we borrow our own democracy from the United States of America, you have state policy, you have community policy. So we must go back to that. And we're already doing that, indirectly, because now I learned that Amotekun, about 100 of them from Ondo State, have to join forces with the Ekiti State and law enforcement to be able to. So that's the way to go. Why can't we have that amendment to our constitution and we put in place community policing? Because a lot of people, and we also make sure that we have enough number in our law enforcement community, like police and even the military. Because for a country of over 200 million people, how many men do we have in our military? How many men do we have in our police force? And most of them are into VIP escort duties, accompanying these political office holders all over the place. So how many of them are available for the actual job that they are meant to do, apart from executive protection that they are doing? So, and another thing that I've also been thinking and researching into this is that, look, our politicians, with the way people hear about money, is going to continue to, have an influence, okay, on the security forces. Do you know that I used to be in the military? And I know my friends who serve in the military for over 30, 35 years, how much were their entitlements when they leave? How much were their gratuity and pension? How much are you spending to buy operational vehicle for somebody that elected to the federal legislation? 160 million. When these people serve for 35 years, those who are in the bush, like you had that soldier who say my salary is 50,000 in a month, and I want to go and see my family after 1 year in the bush, and I go to the motor park, and the to and fro to my village from Maiduguri is 70,000 now. So I have no choice. I go back to the bush. So that means that soldier says I'm earning 50,000 in a month, and that's the person that you are. Because when they talk about military, we just with military, is this soldier that are asking to go and chase the kidnappers. So you find out the level at which those kidnappers are operating. Is either they are operating, they have people who are either be out of military, or who have the military experience or law enforcement experience, or the weapon handling, because they are not just people that don't know anything about it. That's why they are even ahead of our law enforcement and the military. So we need to do a lot as a people, as a country, to be able to get ahead of these bad elements in our community.
All right, finally, before we move on to our next topic, because I feel like this is also something important that we have to discuss, what would be your advice to families, parents, even religious institutions? Because we have cases that some of these churches and some parents, they don't know the source of the wealth of their, for people who donate a lot of money to them. Even some parents do not take time to really get to discuss with their children, or some even know the source of wealth of their children and they don't question it as long as they are getting enough money. And we also, because there was also this news, although this one is, well, it is still sort of an insecurity. This boy macheted his father and his mother because he claimed that the mother gave him fake name he wanted to use to do Yahoo. We wanted to do the Yahoo Plus, if I'm to use the urban slang for it. So when they were able to subdue the boy, and then they took him to the police station, what he said was his parents were aware that this is what he does for a living. He even built a bungalow for the family that they were living in. So if we have cases like this, that parents are encouraging their children to do whatever it is, as long as they are comfortable, their mouth is fed. He even said that it was a pastor that got a generator for the church that told him that the mother was one that gave him fake name and was one that did this sort of portion for him that was supposed to give him abundance of wealth. So if we have pastors in a way indirectly encouraging these people to keep doing crime, they are not questioning where the money is coming from. then what do, if there's something wrong with the primary agent of change, which is the family, and then we also have the religious institution, because their influence too cannot be overestimated. What advice would you give to them so that we could return to some semblance of normalcy?
Meet the parents, because I'm a parent too, so, and we have to. And I remember that, okay, in our, as a Yoruba people, we don't take kindly to all of that. And I know that our culture does not take kindly to, we want to know. I remember my uncle will always tell me, my young ones, my nephews that are in Lagos, please, Felix, you are my eye. Please, what are these children doing? Please check out on them. He said he's doing this. Help me go and find out. You know, that's our upbringing. But a lot of that is changing now. And some parents are tacitly encouraging their children, you know, to go into those things that are. So we'll just advise the parent, they should be at least be concerned. If your child is want to build a house for you and bought a car, and you know he doesn't have a legitimate means of income, are you not going to ask that what are you doing? What kind of work are you doing? And you know, and we have parents who cover up for their children, and even if maybe the father that is speaking and say no, I don't know what this boy, and the mother will say, you know. So all of that is not going to help at the end of the day, because when those illegally gotten wet, there will always be a day of reckoning. It might be soon, it might be later. Okay, and this I guess from what I've been hearing, that is they are into ritual. You know, they do a lot of rituals to be able to, and of course, such money will not last. So there will always be a day of reckoning that will come. Is either they will request, even some use their parents for rituals, some use their siblings and use other people, this and that. But eventually, such money will not last. So they should know it's just temporary. And but for religious bodies, you know, the reason why religious bodies is there is to be able to be the moral, you know, gauge of the community of the of citizens. So, but we know that some men of God are not true to their calling. We have just had a situation in Lagos where the bishop was sentenced to life imprisonment for, you know, for rape and all of that, or assault on the members of the church. So, but we always have that, because even the time of Jesus, we know there's a Judas. So, but the collective good of the majority of them who have seen themselves, put themselves as a moral barometer for the community, for the faith, we should continue to be encourage them. And those ones that are bad eggs, we pray that God will talk to them or touch them, and they can reverse and they can have a rethink and know that the reason why they're there is to help, you know, be the moral, you know, check on our community and our citizens.
All right, thank you very much for that.